Hey everyone, how are you doing? It is Monday, and well, some places it's cold. It's cold here. So, hope you're doing good. Hope you're keeping warm. And if you're listening on the underside of the planet, hope you're keeping cool. Good to see everyone. Thank you for joining in. I just want to invoke great favor upon all of us today, the planets, the earth, the spirits, everybody. And we just speak peace. We speak full restoration into all of our lives. Let there be nothing missing, nothing broken. And so, how was your weekend? Interesting times we live in, is it not? Um, Definitely need the tea today and a hot one on that. Yeah, so hello everyone. Hello, Franny. How are you doing, Stuart? Lena, Peter, good to see you. Michelle, David, Robinson, how are you doing? Hey, Blazing River, heard your song the other day. Good stuff, buddy. When you're ready, come on. Deborah, shalom. And Deborah Swanson, hello. Nick, bravo. Joyce, how are you? Truth is in me. That's what we all look for. Viola Knight, hello. And maybe Pile. That's cool. Ghost Liberish. I like that. Luberish. Oh, that's cool. Lori, good to see you as well. And Zazaban, how are you? Shade Fox, Truth D, Sherry, how are you doing? Maria, good to see you. Hello, Lois, Princess Queen, how are you doing? Oh, man, lots of people filing in here. Yeah, so y'all saw maybe in the comments that, hey, listen, I get it. We're dealing in a subject that, well, most of us just don't. Well, not. Let me just rephrase that. Many of us here, this is not new. I mean, all we're doing is basically critiquing a book, an old book. One of the few books that I could say is probably more authentic than the Bible, the Quran, and, maybe not the Vedic. That one may be right at the same time. But particularly for Christians, when you have one of the founding fathers of that religion make direct reference to this book. And yet, as I could not get to sleep last night, a lot of you that are reading this book, you're experiencing the same thing. There's something happens. I mean, it's like the synaptic pathways begin to start firing. And so here I am laying awake, and I'm thinking about, the fact that Paul of Antioch got a hold of this book. I mean, that's what marvels me. It's like, dare I say this? You could say that at least to the first century, this book was referenced. I mean, I would put that on the same level of discovery of the Sumerian tablets, the Epic of Gilgamesh. I've read all those. In fact, if you go back in my archives, I've done stories on those. I probably will redo those, being many of those are several years old. But yeah, I read someone wrote, who was it, that said, "Hi, Paul, how are you doing? Hello, Adriel, good to see you. Patrick, how are you doing, my friend? Got your emails this morning, my friend. Yes, and yes, and yes." By the way, tomorrow, Patrick and I will be on Talking with the Planets. Well, I got a few questions now. But anyway, I kind of find that rather interesting. And, someone wrote all their research led them to the same place. I happen to agree with that. As I was telling Jeff yesterday in our show, Not Your Normal Sunday Morning, I guess Lynn and I talked about this. She thinks it's well over 2,000 hours. And a small ransom that has been paid that we have. I buy books. That's what I do. I like buying books. I like reading books. My wife walked in here this morning in my office, and she's literally almost slipped on some books I had by the door because I was doing a lot of research. And hey, Franny, I think he may have some foundation to that. And yeah, so when you read books, you begin to see things. And in this journey, the only reason why I am here, the only reason, is because the religion that I believed in, and I am a studious student. I excel at that. I've been gifted with a mind, as people have told me, that's tested in me, and it's unique. I get it. But the only reason why I'm here is because the questions were never answered. And you don't have to be that good of a snoop. You really don't. In fact, it amazes me how little effort it really does take to begin to see the deception. And so here we find ourselves. And today's study, we're going to get right into it because, listen, I get that this is written in a particular Mid-Eastern style. I get it. But by the way, I've got a library full of such books, including the Zohar, that is written in the same style. The Talmud is written in the same style. The Zephyr is written in the same style. And if those are acceptable, then why not this? This book, which is one of very few, it's even more authentic than the Bible. The Bible has no authenticity to it. It's a literary story, not literal, literary. In other words, it's a fabricated story set in historical events. So, listen, I did a video called Two Creations, Two Worlds. Back in the day when I was volumes of commentaries, I have to say that Dake's Bible was probably, Phineas Dake, I think he was on the path. I think if he'd lived longer, he may have had it. He had the theory that we were never from here, that there was things going on the other planets. But nevertheless, and he took a whole time to rewrite the Bible with his own commentary. Now, that's dedication. But having said all that, the ambiguity of the book itself leads the least of intelligence to question the foundation of the veracity of the story to begin with. And so here we go. And the thing is, as I was laying awake trying to get some sleep, and a spirit came and began to talk, is this. The deception is so deep in all of us. And if we don't learn, someone wrote me, he said, well, when are you going to teach us to how to begin to prepare ourselves for the other side? This book will help you do it. We've got to know our enemy. And how many of you ever read The Art of War? If you don't know your enemy, you're going to get your ass kicked. And that's apparently what's happened to our species. And if there's one thing, allow me to reiterate here, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe in any religion, none of them. I don't care to know their gods. I am not a Christian. I'm not Jewish. I got no desire to be Jewish. Why would I want to worship their God? I don't want to worship any God, for I am a God. And the question as we go into today's study is this. Let's see how many people will answer this in the comments section. Why worship a God at all? Why? What is the progenitor that gives the inertia to the fact that we have to worship a God at all? No one will answer those questions. What? Because he created you? So what? Do you expect your kids to get down on their hands and knees and kiss your feet and worship you? No. Why would another God bow down before another God to worship it? Why does a God want worshipers to begin with? Let's get honest, humans, Homo sapiens sapiens. Let's get real about this. And stop playing church. Stop playing Mr. Philosopher. And, oh, I've got, such blah, 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 blah. Let's admit to some basic fundamental truths. Number one, humanity is a hunted species by other intelligences, other sovereigns. Humanity has been used for its blood on the sacrifice of many altars. And by all evidence, from secularism to science to religion to philosophy, it is agreed we do not know our beginnings. No religion explains it. No philosophy can expound as to where it started. And so that leaves us in a lurch. As I contend, all the religions of the world are either all wrong or they're all worshiping the same deity. It can only be one or the other. So, I think there's another fallacy we have about ourselves. We are nothing more than mud. It's all we were. The difference is we never understood why the archons, why the angels hate us. Because there is something unique about us. We go back millions and millions of years. You've got two potential paths of thought on this. Either we have no understanding of what the past truly is in dating, or all of this may be a very recent past. So, having said that, I already got one thumbs down. Hey, listen, after some of the emails I got, it doesn't matter. And yeah, I had to get up and walk around. You don't like hearing some of this stuff that comes out. When I was bringing the very first mobile payment system to churches, nearly a decade ago, before mobile payment was even here, I was called by more than one church council the Antichrist himself, because I was, get this, I was interrupting the tithe. Yeah. Some stories, it's the old Jimmy Buffett song on Highway 108, A1A, if we could be in some motel, the stories that we could tell. All right, folks. let's get right into this. Let's get into the meat of this, and let's rock and roll. Got a lot to cover. I don't even know if we're going to get through all this. If we don't, we'll pick it up on Thursday. By the way, we have Kindred Spirit, Ruth, coming on Wednesday. So looking forward to that. All right, so I'm going to kind of pick up where we kind of left off, just back up a couple of steps. So we were in the midst of where God blasphemes, and God is Samuel. I mean, you know, I've heard, listen, don't send me the emails. You know, there's 1,000 names for this God. The fact that this God names itself indicts it to show that it's no God at all. You see, the minute a God assigns it a name, it's not a God. You've got to understand how the archons work, folks. Anyway, this God, Samuel, cries out, I am the only God. There is no other God besides me. I am that I am. Thus Samuel, God of this realm, blasphemed against the glory of the Blessed One. Samuel knows nothing of the other place from which he had come. And you know, the thing about it is, folks, if you begin to understand, there are threads through all of these sacred books that validate this. I mean, when I try to explain people in Psalms 84 that this God dies, whether they're called the Elohim, whether they're called the Anunnaki, whether they're called Lucifer, Samuel, Yahweh, Jehovah, I could just go right on down the line. It's the same one. But once you give it a name, it's not again, no longer there. And they do die. I didn't say it. They did. So we talked about Barbelon and her shame. The luster of Barbelon dimmed because she gave birth to this incomplete thing that we call God. She let the light within her diminish and saw the cause with the foreknowledge given her as a gift by the invisible spirit. And here's a clue, folks. You want to know why you have a spirit of divination? I mean, it's even part of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Just go to read your Bible. It's because it's a gift. It's not prophecy. It's the gift of foreknowledge. It's a difference. The blasphemy and wickedness of her ill-formed son shadowed her face. She became tarnished because her consort had not agreed with her acts of bringing forth God. In shame, she hid herself under the mantle of darkness. Are you beginning to see all of these? You know, this book to me, and I'm taking it literally word by word, is the most fascinating read of my library. And I've had some fascinating reads because it gives you so many clues to what challenges our species today. The great question is, why does humanity have such darkness? And it's not because of sin. If there is a sin, it's sin because humanity bowed down to this God. That's what appears to be sin, because there is no sin. But nevertheless, the moment you bow down and start worshiping a God, you lose the divinity. Now, that's a serious statement. That's how souls get trapped. Because once you do that, you give your sovereignty over to another equal that you were all along. Seeking forgetfulness She wandered to and fro. And this is what I contend, ladies and gentlemen. The fugue that lays over humanity's consciousness is the elixir of forgetfulness. Why? You think about the whole reincarnation theory. It's based on forgetfulness. That's why I reject it. Will not succumb to that. Will not bow down before that God. You can kiss my white ass. Yes, and when I go on to the next plane, my ass will be any color I want it to be. She feared to return to her eon. She wept bitterly, repenting for her error. Many a mother has given birth to a son or a daughter and regretted it. Many of you know what I mean. Barbelon renewed. And here is what I love about this. In this dark book, and it is a dark book. Let's don't be sugarcoating it. It's a dark book. But knowledge I've never found to be black or white. I've always found knowledge to be. It's you that makes it black or white. The whole of heaven heard her weeping gust of sighs of regrets. Her prayers were borne up to the invisible spirit. There's a hierarchy here. I have it charted out over on my whiteboard here. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Within the infinite mercy, the spirit that is virgin forgave her and bathed her in the water of life. Now, this water of life transcends in every belief system I have found. Her consort, divine autogen, came to her through the plenitude to restore her brightness. You see, I think in this is the hope for humanity. She was taken above him, even to the ninth sphere, to dwell with the perfect source and become renewed. So what do we have here? We have invisible spirit. We have the virgin spirit. We have the autogen. We have a perfect source. Samael is rebuked. The eon of eons looked down upon the works of Samael and disapproved as a father frowns upon the wickedness of his child. Samael had great power through the blind dragon over to make and unmake. In his vanity of his arrogance, he had yet used it only to create. I mean, folks, you meditate on this for a little bit, and I'll guarantee you, you know, the old lights start going off. For Samael had learned he could turn the coils of the dragon upon themselves and use its power to destroy the father of all. I mean, I had to take a double take on that. What it's saying, God had murder in its heart way before any murder came to earth, man. The father of all, I'm sure when he got word of this said, oh yeah, you think? Sent the angel of light eon, whose name is Armozel, to smite the worm with the fiery sword. Sounds to me like a laser, doesn't it? Lightsaber. Go back and look at my videos on the serpents worldwide. It's all there. It's all there. The dragon is castrated. Armozel entered the kingdom of Samael unseen and approached to the place where Samael and Lilith entwined. Samael was drunk on desire and did not see Armozel approaching. The coils of the red dragon burned between their loins, where an unending stream of mighty demons flowed from Lilith's womb. Armozel pulled his flaming blade, I said lightsaber because that's what it is. Look what it does. It literally cauterizes the wound and struck the sword between their withering bodies and maimed the dragon in his lower parts. In other words, he cut off what apparently Samuel was using to copulate, his sex organs. Armozel castrated the worm so that it could not make or unmake. That's a very interesting term. You look at that one and the separation. The coils of the dragon ceased to make. No more creatures flowed up from its chaos. Samuel turned from Lilith with a cry of rage. Lilith cried out. Hers was one of a bitter cry. Armozel left them with their backs touching. Samuel, God, did not see Armozel leave, for his light was veiled from his eyes. Without the binding power of the dragon, they could no longer join together. Each lay imperfect and alone. Their lust burned and was not quenched. They rose up and parted and fled from each other's sight. It must have been horrifying. The one thing I have noticed about even, the God of the Bible, the God of Christianity, the God, period, is that, well, he's an egotist, number one, but, that's why he doesn't show himself. He's ashamed of himself. He's incomplete. That's why he hates man. We're about to find out why God, Lord, Jehovah, Yahweh, all you want to call him, why he kills Homo sapiens. Sapiens. Don't know how long. And we're assuming that in this case, the first man is a sapien. Could be completely wrong on that. We may have that completely screwed up. So we have to hold reserve that this is somehow us, or at least we're associated with it. And it appears that we have bipedals. Lilith mourns. Now you have to understand, Lilith's already been lied to. Samuel told her this whole cockamamie story. And when she found out the truth, it's like having your heart broke for the first time. It's the old saying, we all go through puppy love. If you don't have puppy love, you can never get into real love. Well, I don't know about you, but I can still remember when those hormones were raging wildly, how many times did we end up falling in and out of love? But we learned something each step of the way. We learned a lot what love was not. Lilith wandered the mountains, beating her breast and gnashing her teeth because of the emptiness inside her remained unfulfilled. She came to the highest boundary of Samuel's kingdom. That should give you a clue right there. There is limits to this kingdom. Folks, I'm convinced it's just this earth. It's not the cosmos. It is just this earth. And this earth has different realms to it. You heard it first. That's my hypothesis. While she stood there looking afar, the clouds of glory, and that actually translates Shekinah glory, that obscured the edge of the firmament. This has, as I said, let's continue. The clouds rolled away and revealed the underside of the waters that encircled the earth. You see, I think that we're in, well, I know we are. We're in a fugue. We're in an intoxicated mirage. We actually think this is real. And when you go through the death portal, which is really the life portal, you begin to see, but there is an intoxicant to this. The spores are everywhere. Light illuminated the water and made them clear. The roots of the mountains trembled. The thunder shook the peaks. I found this interesting. Friday, they announced that although the topographical mantle is relatively smooth, we have mountains and we have valleys, but it compels in comparison to what the mantle is facing inside the core. I often wonder where Lilith was walking. Lilith sees Dogmas, man. For the fulfillment of his own design, we got another person here, folks. See, I think we have a mighty, mighty powerful group that are waiting for us. Good ones. For the fulfillment of his own design, the mother father of all caused the image of Dogmas to shine through the bottom of the waters. His face was a human face, and his form a human form. A voice of triumph rang down from the highest eons. Behold, the work that is man. You must ask yourself, this is a key component to me. I have it in my flow chart. This is wisdom to he who can comprehend. Behold, the works that is man. Who is the voice saying this? Is not God. No. This is something greater than God. Lilith gazed enraptured at his heavenly image, wandering mud, and the harmony of his parts and grace of his proportions. You see, they still see us as wandering mud. There was a movie out called Legions. Christopher Walken's played in it. It was a great movie. Go see it. And anyway, Satan, who, it's based on the Christian Catholicism mindset. But anyway, the character that played Satan said one thing I thought was so interesting when he met this detective, man. He said, talking about Gabriel, because Gabriel started a second war in heaven. And Satan said, there's only room for one hell in this realm. I always thought that was interesting. So here's wandering mud. But we are in the heavens, capital H, by the way. Lust moved within her loins. She determined to fashion a copy of man, capital, parentheses, and use it as her consort. This was in keeping with the plan of the perfect spirit. I speak to all humanity on this. This is where I think our hope lies. Someone's got our back. Someone above Lilith, someone above God, someone above all the archons has got our back because they hate us. You're going to see. And if they hate us, well, I guess we're just going to have to take care of that, aren't we? Lilith creates man. Lilith came down from the mountain and gathered together rotting leaves, mud, and slime, then mingled it with other corruptions. Now, this word corruptions is decay. It's what it comes out to. It's interesting. She molded it into the pattern. Again, that's a key word, this word pattern, that she had seen in the waters of heaven. With infinite care, she rounded its limbs and painted its countenance. Into its mouth, she put ivory. In the eye sockets, she set pearls. Seaweed she draped over its bald crown. Bits of shell she pressed into the ends of its fingers and toes. Between its thighs, she fitted with the leg of a goat. Yeah. Lilith fails miserably, may I add. Lilith stretched herself upon the image and pressed it into her breast and put her lips over its mouth. No warmth arose to sustain her lust. The image of the mud man lay cold and still. Lilith lacked the divine spark to give life. Key clue. Key clue. She wept in frustration and watered it with her tears. This is a very sad creature. I at times I pity her, and other times I don't know what to think. But for a creature, she apparently didn't have a break from the very beginning. Watching from above, the invisible spirit sent down the angel Armolzel to counsel Lilith. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the person who's got our back, whatever it is. I love it. I want some more of it. I got to find it. Because it's there. Wait till you see. Armolzel came to her in the midst of her grieving and whispered into her left ear. Lilith did not hear or see the angel, whose light was veiled from her. You see, even the archons are not powerful. So Lilith has a plan. Lilith sought out Samuel in his wrath and laid her hands upon his cheeks to still his wrath. She smiled a smile of love to placate him. Hey, baby, want some of this? Lilith said, my Lord. Yes, that's the same Lord that is used in the same thing when people are praying to that false god, Jesus. Lord Jesus. Lord is Baal. Come and see the wondrous shape the waves of the sea have thrown up onto the shore. She led him to the still body, and he marveled at the beauty of the image lying in the sand. Now here's the vanity of this God. Samuel declared, verily, it is a work of my mother who is in heaven. Samuel knew no other eon but Barbelon. Lilith said, only think what a splendid servant it would make if you could quicken it. Come on, man. I know you got it. You can do it. If it holds the heavenly power of your mother, its face will be a light to set between us. Lilith spoke Armolzel's words. She was unaware. Samuel said, let us call him Adam, for his name shall be light and power between us. Light and power. Two distinct words, two distinct meanings. And we're the neutral, the divine spark of man. Samuel desired to call forth the spark of Barbelon. He did not know it already burned within his own breast. To display his powers, this is a prideful God. Before Lilith and the watching host of angels, he transformed himself into the shape of a man. Samuel lay upon the pattern of earth. His feet touched its feet. His shin pressed its shin. His thigh touched its thighs. His belly was on its belly. His hands held its hands. His shoulders spanned its shoulders. From toe to crown, he measured its measure. The face of Samuel kissed the face of earth and breathed the breath of the serpent, and the serpent slid between the lips of clay. Let me read that again. The face of Samuel kissed the face of earth and breathed the breath of the serpent, and the serpent slid between the lips of clay. Maybe why there's serpents everywhere. Maybe that's why the Caucasus has the serpent. The serpent breathes the breath of life. The moment of the serpent's kiss, the spark of life fled from Samuel and entered the earth man. This was the intent of the Eon of Eons. He enacted to restore the power of the light of the Holy Mother, Barbelon. The limbs of the earth man became flesh and warmed with the sun. The earth man breathed and opened wandering eyes. He sat up and his face was luminous. That word in there almost could be compared to the same word of the sun. That had to be a sight. Kind of puts the pieces together, doesn't it? So I found this to be, actually it's one of the ancient Chinese snake gods, but I just got the psychic impression that this is pretty much what I think actually happened. This is what I think Samuel must look like. There's something, obviously he's not complete. And yeah, odd, isn't it? God is deceived. When Samuel looked upon Adam, he knew he had been deceived. The earth man beauty was more perfect than his. Adam was whole and complete, whereas God was incomplete. Adam had the divine spark within him. The rage of the first archon flew out of his eyes in a fiery bolts that blasted the rocks and made the sea boil. Samuel cried out to the assembled host of angels and cried, I am a jealous God, and there are no other gods besides me. At this, the angels wondered and spoke between themselves, saying, if there are no other God, then of whom shall this God be jealous of? Folks, when you read that in your Bible and other places, what that God is declaring, we are superior to him, to it. It's the key. This God is jealous of us. That's why it kills us. That's why it murders us. That's why it slays us. That's why it tricks us, deceives us. From the very beginning. You ask, why, if there was such a loving God, that such bad things happen? Because there's no loving God. You see, I said yesterday, you see that plaque right over here? That's 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. That's the indictment against this God. Because that right there is completely the antithesis of what you find elsewhere in the Bible. How can you have that and have a God be saying this? Love is not jealousy. It's not envious. It doesn't seek retribution. You getting it? Samuel's wrath on Adam. Samuel looked upon the luminous face of man, and his heart burned black with jealousy. The earth man who had come into being out of the fire of his breath was greater in mind than any of the archons. How could this be? In him existed no taint of wickedness. How could this be? Adam was wholly pure through the power of his mother, Barbelon, for she had put the spark with man. The first archon perceived the spark of clear light in man. The way a thing may be seen in a mirror that is not seen without the mirror, he, Adam, saw it. That's one of, there are certain key things in here. That's one of them right there. That tells you the true nature of man. We can do something that this God can't even do. Samuel coveted the spark and sought to possess it. The archons and angels hate Adam. The archons and angels hated Earthman because he excelled them in power of thought and was free from sin. You see, Adam didn't worship anything. They did. They met and plotted together and set to burden Adam by awakening in him the heaviness of needs and desires that is remembrance of the body, but forgetfulness of the spirit. May the veil be lifted on your minds. The thought of man became distracted. His eyes were turned away from the spark of Barbelon that glowed within Adam. The archons build paradise prison. Paradise is a prison. Always was, in all of the mythologies and the mythos of all the stories, all the way back to the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is a prison. That's all it was ever designed for. The archons constructed a place for, you see that? They constructed a place for Adam of keeping him in a set place they called paradise. Adam was not allowed to wander beyond the boundary of paradise. That's a prison. It was a compound run by a group of insane entities that so hated mankind that they live in fear today that mankind will wake up from this intoxicant called forgetfulness. They told him, eat abundantly of the fruit of its tree, take pleasure under the sun. This was deception, for the fruit of their trees are bitter poison, and their pleasures are deceptions and death. In these things is forgetfulness of the spirit. So they intoxicated Adam with luxury. You want to know why we live in such a screwed up matrix where when you're born, you're already born into debt? And the rest of your known days is that you're going to be worshiping a God called consumerism, that it so steals the soul energy of those it infects that life no longer even matters. It's as long as I can have my newest thing, you know. I got to look cool. Yeah. I got to have the image, you know, man. It's true. Yeah. Yeah. Folks, this is the condition of us today. And you want to know why? You see, to me, the veil is lifted on this. Very obvious why we are as what we are. It gets worse. The archons set the trap, the tree of life. In the midst of paradise grew a tree the archons called the tree of life. It is not a tree of life, but verily it is a tree of Gehenna, whose leaves are lies and whose roots drink corruption. Its seeds are desire, its flowers sin, and its fruit is death. The shadow of the tree is hate. It sprouts in darkness, and he who eats of its fruit go into darkness and Gehenna. Mm-hmm. Puts a different spin on the old tree of life, doesn't it? I love this. I don't know if the tree ever existed or not. But, since these were the fairy tales I was brought up and through the church and everything else, to me, I'm just listen, I'm going to share something with every one of you. I had a detective friend. He's since passed on, but he told me once, we were out getting some beers, and he says, "You know why I'm a good detective?" I said, "No, Don, tell me." He says, "Because let me tell you something, Wayne." He said, "If you only listen to one side of the story, and that's your only evidence, and that's all you believe, all you're going to do is walk in circles." Now, some of you need to hear that. The Archon set the trap, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In the middle of paradise grew a second tree that the Archons called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It is the tree of foreknowledge of the pure light. Right there, we could do a week's study right on those two things right there. The roots of the tree drink from the fountain of life, waters that sustain the Archons. You see, they're taking from us what is rightfully ours and sustaining themselves on it. Its leaves are music, its seeds are promises, its flowers desire. The fruit of the tree is knowledge of the way to descent and the way to ascend. Think about that. That would give you knowledge how to go down, how to go up, how to go down, how to go up. Powerful. Is this what Thoth is? Is he an Archon that has been stealing the very essence of our lives? Those who eat of its fruit arise through the eons and unite with the Son of the perfect invisible Spirit, Autogen, the Messiah. Wow. The tree of life the Archons left unfenced, that earthman might disobey the law of Samuel and eat of it in sin. The tree of knowledge of the good and evil they covered with their wings and made hidden, that man should not eat of it and awaken in shame of his nakedness, of his folly. Man walked in a dream state of forgetfulness and obeyed the laws of Samuel and called him Lord. Adam did not know that the light was in him and that God was only fire and darkness. Yeah. Eve is created. Samuel cast a sleep over Adam that was not a true sleep, but an oblivion of the mind. God sought to unite with the spark that shone from Adam's face. The spark was not a thing that could be captured or held apart. The chief Archon took a pattern from the left side of Adam as he lay asleep and made of it a vessel that he filled with the portion of his light. The shape of the vessel was female. She was called Eve, the first earth woman. Adam and Eve. When Adam awoke, he looked upon the woman and recognized in her his own image, She was born out of his own pattern, and he loved her as he loved himself. Adam said to her, "Verily, you are bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. We will cleave together and be as one." Again, the wrath of God was against the wondrous mud, and the host of Archons hated man for his glory. God covets Eve. This was the will of God, Samuel, to lie and have intercourse with the woman in secret, while the man slept, and thereby enthrall the power of the spark that glowed within her. God sought to infuse its power of the spark into his works as before he had liberated it by union with Lilith, his consort. So you see, the only way that this God could create, that he had to have the energy of another. The beauty of Eve was like no other creature, and it aroused his lust and burned deep within his loins to possess her. Eve was innocent and did not know that she was naked. The host lusted after her. Lilith intervenes. Lilith saw the purpose of Samuel, and she waxed black of countenance. The beauty of Eve was greater than her own. This was because the spark of the mother shone bright within Eve's life essence. The beauty of Eve came from the light, but the beauty of Lilith is of the shadows. Lilith still lusted after Samuel, but could no longer have intercourse with him. The mutilation of the blind dragon kept them apart. The loveliness of Eve was as gall and wormwood in her mouth. Well, we're going to stop right there for today. We'll pick this up on Thursday because we're really going to get into some pretty heavy stuff. Thursday's show will be probably need to be an R-rated, because we're going to get into something that has been very taboo. I think something that has been kept secret in virtually all the religions. It's so terrible that the implications of it is something that we're still living with today. And we see it in our bodies, physically. We see it in our brains. We see it all around us. There's a reason why the serpent lives in us. There's a reason why the serpent is all around us. Go to the Vatican, folks. Come on. You can go all around the world. It's there. There's a reason for it. It is the creators. Hard to accept, isn't it? I love it. I got 8 thumbs down. We'll just call those merit badges right there. Because, the more the thumbs down go, it tells me the more this is producing cognitive dissonance. It's abhorrent to our consciousness that God is a serpent, that God hates us. But yet we have the evidence everywhere that that's exactly what happens. And I know people get all up there and go, well, how can you say that? He's a God. No, he's not a God of love. There is no God of love. I know people don't want to hear that either. But, show me where this God is. Right there. Show me where that plaque is. Show me where that God is. And if the guy that was on the cross is directly linked to what we just read, who's saving who? From what? We've been in a trap, folks. In a fugue. At some point, we have to wake up out of this deep sleep. I'm not saying that this story is true. I'm not saying it's not. It's a different point of view. That's how we learn. And just because it may be reprehensible to your consciousness is no reason to reject it. Listen, if you only take one version, you're going in circles, sweetheart. That's what your life is, your theology, your whole consciousness. You're going in circles because you refuse to go out and hear another side of the story. And God forbid should it actually be true. Someone said, every man wants Eve as his wife, but he wants Lilith in the bed. Well, you're going to find out something on that. Okay. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, now I got 9. Let's see if I can break double digits. Come on, let's give me another one, These are probably the people that or so offended by this. Oh, I tell you what. Quit getting wrapped around the axle. So many of you got your panties in a wad that you can't walk without a bow. Man, get over it. Stand up upright, face it, and if you don't like it, that's cool. Just don't get it personal. That's all. How many of you went to college? I mean, did you stand up to your professor in the class and start ridiculing him? If you did, you didn't stay in that class very long, did you? There's 10. All right. Keep on, folks. I mean, the way I look at it, every time you put that thumbs down, that's just a thumbs down of hate. That's all it is. So our species loves to hate. That's what happens. So keep your emails. I'm not going to read them. If you are a free thinker and really want to explore, then you're welcome here. But if you're a hater, I don't want you. This community doesn't want you. Give me all the thumbs down you want. I don't care. Send me all your nasty emails telling me I'm going to hell. I don't care. I lived that for nearly 50 years. I got tired of hating my brother. I got tired of hating myself. And now I love myself. As imperfect as I am, when I get on the other side, well, there we go, 12. I love it. Who are these people? Are they just tuning in and just saying, okay, I can't handle this? Yeah, you can't handle the fact that what I said, there is no God of love. Show me the God of love. 13. Let's keep it up. I'm going to keep going. Let me see. Keep on, folks. Come on, come on. I ask questions, and all I get most of the time are the most piteous type of a response. They never address the core issues that's being discussed. All right, I'm gone. Have yourselves a good one, folks, and we'll continue on. It's a tough road. It really is. And I wish all the unicorn and pixies and all the other kind of gushy stuff was so true, but I don't see it in our species. And if that makes me the target, then fine. I'd rather die honest with myself than lying to you. All right, folks, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.